Christianity from every other religion is that you cannot be born a Christian. The Apostle John writes in his gospel and says in the first chapter that as many as received Christ, he gave them the right to be called the sons of God. Not of blood, not of the efforts of men, nor of the strivings of men, but of God. You see, the Jewish people up to that point were born into Judaism. They were born into the Jewish faith. But at the death of Christ and the starting of the new covenant, it was going to be a covenant of the heart where you cannot be born a Christian, but you become born again, born of the Spirit, not of the flesh. Why do I say all this? Because if anybody deserved, perhaps, to be born a Christian, it was me. My father's got a powerful testimony. My mother loves the Lord. As parents, they raised me and my sister as Christians. They raised us in a Christian atmosphere, in a Christian home. They were serving the Lord with all of their hearts. My father was the pastor of a very successful church. My mother was a loving wife. We grew up in a great environment, my sister and I. I went to children's church. I went to youth meetings. I went to children's camps. I went to youth camps. I did everything possible for a young man to have the opportunity to become a Christian. However, when I turned 13 and went to high school, as most young men know, I went to an all-boys high school. And in that high school, I suddenly found desires in me that I didn't even know existed. The Apostle Paul says in the book of Romans, he says, we know that the law is holy, but I am sinful, carnal, sold under sin, unable to keep what is holy and righteous and true, unable to keep the law. You see, I grew up in an environment where up to the age of 13, 14, 15, I knew what was right, I knew what was wrong. I knew what God expected of my life, I knew what God intended for me to live, and I knew what God did not want me to live. I knew what sin was, I knew what sin wasn't. I could categorize things, I knew it all here. But there was no reality for me. So when I ended up in high school, I found myself with these desires growing in me for sin. Desires for the world, desires to drink, desires for women, desires to be rebellious, desires to manifest all kinds of different sinful things that were already in my heart. And the struggle that I had was that I was not born again. And so there was nothing in me, there was no equipping of the Lord to turn me away from these things. On the contrary, I found that the more I did them, the more I enjoyed them. And the more I enjoyed them, the more I wanted of them. And the more I got of them, the deeper I wanted these things to be in my life. I was caught between a rock and a hard place, unable to deliver myself, unable to stop doing the things that I was doing. I could talk to you about drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, women, but who hasn't been there today in today's world? Everyone's done those things. But the reality and the root, the core, was that in me, I was rebelling against God. There came a day when I was 22 years old, where for the first time in my life, although I knew it all, I knew the stories of the Bible, for the first time in my life, I was sitting in a church meeting and I came under the conviction of my own sin. And in that moment, something became so clear to me. It was like a revelation. I needed the forgiveness of God. I needed God to forgive me for the man I had become. Not the things that I had done, things that I know were part of it, but who I was, my nature, the very person that I was. And in that moment, I broke my heart before God. I wept before Him. And the blood of Jesus washed me, cleansed me. God forgave me. And today, you see before you a new creature, a new creation. I've been born again. And I'm now serving Jesus with my wife and with all of my heart. And I pray that that experience can be yours. God bless you.